Jets and Cardinals have the best 2 records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The topics are hot. The discussion is heated. And we're on fire. The First Take Podcast starts now.
Here's what's coming up on the First Take Podcast. Big Ben is out 4 to 6 weeks, so will the Steelers still make the playoffs? Plus, do NFL refs disrespect Cam Newton? And are the Eagles ready to take over the NFC East? Those topics and more coming your way. Never a dull moment in the NFL. Hello and welcome into First Take. Appreciate you starting your week here with us alongside Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith.
Hey.
Karam. Good morning,
What's
gentlemen.
up, man?
Condolences about your lost quarterback.
Condolences about your Cowboys.
Yeah, I know. We both lost our quarterbacks.
We
Right?
lost our quarterbacks, but somehow, some way, I feel good today.
Yeah?
I feel good today. I don't know what it is. I think the Steelers won. The Cowboys lost.
Oh.
Okay.
Makes me feel good.
Oh, we'll get into that.
I'm just saying.
I still have my quarterback.
I'm just saying.
All right, coming up, we're recapping all the major NFL storylines from Sunday. We'll hear from the guys on what they alluded to, the Cowboys taking the first L of the season at the hands of the undefeated Falcons. How about that? Plus, Cam Newton and the Panthers also have a perfect record, but not everything was smooth sailing Sunday. Wait till you hear what Ed Hochuli, the referee, said to Cam yesterday. We'll react to that. But first, the Eagles got their first win of the season on the road in New Jersey, defeating the Jets 24-17. Darren Sproles returned to punt 89 yards for a score. Ryan Matthews rushed for over 100 yards while starting in place of the injured DeMarco Murray. The Eagles improved to 10-0 all-time against the Jets, who are coming off a victory at Indianapolis last Monday night. Philly aided by 3 Ryan Fitzpatrick interceptions. Stephen A., does this game prove that your Philadelphia Eagles have figured things out?
Absolutely not. It does not prove that, Skip Bayless. Let me be the first to say that. The fact of the matter is that the Philadelphia Eagles showed up at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey yesterday against a team who seemed ill-equipped to go up against them. The New York Jets, offensively, defensively, all around, looked confused. They looked lost. They looked pathetic. And by the way, I might add, it just irritated not just Jet fans, but anyone who looks at the Jets and continuously finds themselves in the position that whenever you sit up there and say the Jets have arrived, that somehow, some way the Jets are okay, something else happens. Now, you can sit up there with that face of yours, all right, sitting there going like this. Well, you know what? I'm not caught up in it either. I told you that the Eagles weren't going to do anything in the NFC East. I told you not to get all caught up in there. Oh, so what, all right? I don't feel like sitting there and giving you kudos for that because we'll get to your Cowboys soon enough. But I will say this to you. The Philadelphia Eagles showed me absolutely nothing. Not just because they went scoreless in the second half, but in the first half, that Jets team just seemed ill-prepared. Now, I am a fan of Todd Bowles. We all know this. And I think that he's going to be a sensational coach. But I did say in that first half yesterday, he didn't have them ready. Their offense, first of all, don't even get me started with Ryan Fitzpatrick. I just can't believe. I don't want you to faint when I say this, Skip, but there are actually people who call into my radio show every day that are actual fans of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Why, I have no idea whatsoever. It seems to me like the IQ from your Harvard education doesn't necessarily translate into you performing big time on a football field on an NFL Sunday. Brandon Marshall know what the hell he was thinking about with maybe one of the stupidest turnovers that I've ever seen. But, you know, we understand that he was willing to admit that, and we'll let that go. Only had 23 yards rushing. We know that with Ryan Fitzpatrick as your quarterback, you're going to have to run the football effectively. You weren't able to do that. We transition to the Philadelphia Eagles. We talk about DeMarco Murray, y'all. The absence of DeMarco Murray actually had the Eagles looking better. You said it. I will give you props for this with a smile on my face. You are absolutely right when you said Ryan Matthews may be better for this system than DeMarco Murray. But let me tell you something. Neither of them is better for the system than Darren Sproles. I mean, when you see what he did with the 89-yard punt return, with the 1-yard run, I mean, he was absolutely sensational yesterday. There's no question. And he came into the game, by the way, as the Eagles' leading rusher. He had 46 yards rushing on the season in his first 2 games. And then he was actually their leading rusher because we all know that DeMarco Murray had 11 yards and 21 carries, and Ryan Matthews only had 4 attempts, for crying out loud. But he showed up yesterday with 108 yards rushing. The Eagles came out surprised everybody. Switched things up a little bit. Obviously, their blocking was exceptional. Sam Bradford, even though he wasn't that impressive to me, did throw a couple of impressive passes. The defense overall for the New York Jets seemed ill-prepared. But to answer the question directly, do I believe that this is that some epiphany has hit us, or in my case has returned, and that the Philadelphia Eagles have shown that indeed that the first two games were an aberration and that things are going to look bright for them going forward in the NFC East?
Yep.
My answer would be no, primarily because, once again, they won 2 additional quarters without scoring a single point. So they had went scoreless in 5 quarters of the first 2 games out of the 8. Now they've gone scoreless in 7 quarters out of 11. Out of 12.
I want to compliment you to start this show and appreciate the fact that for once, for the first time in a long, long time, you did not overreact to what you saw yesterday and leap with both feet back aboard the Eagles bandwagon. That is impressive perspective on your part, because I did warn you on Friday, I thought the Jets were going to blow this game. Molly actually sided with me after I went out on the limb. That's about as far out on the limb as you can get. But what was my theory? Right. My theory was, it's the theory of too good to be true. When the whole world says that one decent team has 0 chance against another really good team, but the Eagles are still a decent team. I never said they weren't. I got problems with Chip Kelly, but they got talent on that team.
They have talent.
Every time I've seen that happen in my career, invariably, the underdog pulls off the shocking upset. You know why? Because the Jets read the papers, they listen to the radio, they watch television. All they heard all week long was that visiting team coming into your building has no chance in this game. And that's exactly how the Jets played yesterday. They came out flat, emotionally, psychologically flat. There was no urgency. There was no killer instinct from the start. They were back on their heels. And you finally looked up, and it was 24-0. Chip Kelly? Are you kidding me? Okay, now what good did we take away from it? Well, none at the quarterback, because what you said was going to happen to Sam Bradford did happen to Sam. He was pathetic to me, generally pathetic. His QBR was 26, again, on a scale of 0 to 100.
It's hard for me to say that, though, so many drop passes I saw the Eagles
but you know what?
Yesterday.
Listen, this was not impressive. What was he total in this game? It's just
he was
for him to
14
to 28 for
118.
118. That's not big time, take it to the bank kind of numbers. That's not going to change the balance of power in the NFC East. I will give you Ryan Matthews. He's quicker out of his cuts than DeMarco is, so he's a little better fit. And for him to get 108 yards rushing, that is impressive. I will give you that. I thought their defense came to play just because they've been shamed so much that it was the reverse psychology of these guys came out like, okay, watch this. We ain't this bad. And all of a sudden, even that kid Jordan Hicks, who cheap-shotted Tony Romo and broke his clavicle by attacking him, as I'm quoting Jordan Hicks, he led them with 9 tackles. He's pretty good, a rookie from Texas, and he's getting his shot now that Kiko's gone. And I thought the whole secondary played better. But guess who they're playing against? It's the same old Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's okay, but when you least expect it, he's going to throw it to the other team. So if you throw it to the other team 3 times, and then Brandon Marshall tries to make the ultimate hero play, and I'm not going to condemn him for it either, because they're down 17-0 on the Brandon Marshall play, and it was the equivalent of the basketball player going into the lane and going up to make a pass or a shot and then having nowhere to go. He thought he had to throw it back to somebody to make some sensational play, and there was nobody to throw it to except the wrong team. So you turn it over 4 times. Darren Sproles, you allow to get loose and take it all the way to the house on a punt return, which is like a turnover to me. It's like a touchdown turnover. So there are 5 huge blunders. You're not going to be able to overcome it even at home. Now, I think the Jets are a little overrated. I wasn't with you. You said they're a wild card team. I got Buffalo as the wild card team coming out of that division.
That is correct.
Okay, I'm still not sold, but obviously, if Revis is a little nicked and Antonio Cromartie can't finish the game because he's got his knee and Ivory can't go, if you take away those little edges at those positions, all of a sudden they're vulnerable. because the game is going to come back on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He had to throw 58 passes yesterday.
Well, I don't think he had to, and that was one of the other things, Skip.
Well,
I don't think he had to throw the 58 passes.
Is that a Chan Gailey issue?
Not to mention, I think it is. And then the other thing is that I think that the Jets' pass rush will be significantly upgraded once Sheldon Richardson comes back.
Maybe.
I mean, when I made my pick, it was under those premises, and I still stand by him.
Yeah. Well, big picture, again, will the Jets bounce back and be pretty good? They will. But I am not betting on this Philly team. I'm still not going to bet on them in the East. And it's the only positive I could, as a Cowboy supporter, that I could take away from yesterday was they did win, but they didn't win impressively to me. They won by default because the other team didn't show up.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
And I'm of the mindset, listen, there's still a lot of work that they have to do. I guess a win could do a lot of confidence for you. But to me, what I'm seeing from you got to remember, Sam Bradford decided to bet on himself. He thought that he was worth more money that they were offering. He's betting on himself. I don't know how wise of a bet that appears to have been. But that also means there is the possibility that he could be gone from the Eagles as of next season. You're Chip Kelly. Not that Nick Foles is anything to brag at home about, to go home and brag about, but at the same time, who's going to be your quarterback in the future? What kind of players are you going to be able to get? These are all the kind of things that I think we need to watch out for and monitor with Chip Kelly and his Philadelphia Eagles, because I'm not sold. I'm not sold based on what I'm seeing.
Right, and before we go completely gaga over what Sproles did yesterday, I'm going to remind you, he carried the ball 11 times for a total of 17 yards, and he caught 4 passes for a total of 19 yards. So it wasn't within the confines of the offense he did his damage.
Right.
You just can't let him catch a punt and have room to run with it.
Right.
It's your fault. The joke's on you. That's your fault.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because you can kick it away from him. You cannot let him loose.
That's fair. That's fair.
He sure is fun to watch, though.
Oh, he's fun when he gets going. Oh, yeah.
He's fun to watch, yep.
All right, so the Redskins, Eagles, and Giants are all now tied at 1-2 behind the Cowboys. Now let's go to your real squad, Stephen A. Ben Roethlisberger left Sunday's game with an MRI, and Sunday night they confirmed it's a sprained MCL and a bone bruise, not a tear of his ACL, which will likely sideline him 4 to 6 weeks, according to Chris Mortensen, but the Steelers have no timetable for his return. He'll be replaced by Michael Vick, who had the worst total QBR in the NFL last season, with at least 100 passes. The cover of the Pittsburgh Tribune featuring Big Ben, the Big Hurt. Pittsburgh still got the win in St. Louis, 12-6. They are now 2-1. So here's the Steelers' schedule over the next 8 weeks.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Ravens, I have it right here for you. At Chargers, versus Cardinals, at Chiefs, versus the Bengals, Raiders, Browns, and then a bye. Can the Steelers make the playoffs with Ben out 4 to 6 weeks, Stephen A? And I'll give you this.
They can. Thank you so much. Yep. They can, Skip Bayless, but they're in trouble. Here's why. Cincinnati is running away in the regular season. That was a spectacular performance by A.J. Green yesterday. We know this.
Andy Dalton was pretty good.
Andy Dalton was pretty good, and Flacco and those boys weren't able to finish the deal. He just doesn't have enough weapons, even though that bad man Steve Smith did show up. He was bad yesterday in a very good way. Having said all of that, when I look at the Steelers' schedule right now, I'm thinking about a Michael Vick, who had the worst QBR in the NFL last year for any quarterback that threw at least 100 passes. And I'm thinking about the Steelers' schedule. You got a desperate Ravens team who's on the brink if their season is not over already. I'm not sold on the Chargers, but that is on the road as opposed to at home. Then you've got the Cardinals, who may be some folks' Super Bowl pick, to be quite honest with you, because they're that big time. Sure. Especially with Carson Palmer as your quarterback. I think their record is now 16 or 17-2 when he's a starter in the Bruce Arians era. All right, so you've got that, and then you've got the Chiefs on the road. So over those next 4 games, I anticipate that the Steelers will lose at least 2 of those games. Since it's 2 of those games, and they're, 2-1 right now, they would be 4-3 heading into week 8. And that is where my concern lies, because I think by that time it's entirely plausible that the Cincinnati Bengals can end up being at the very least 6-2 at that juncture. And I don't know if the wild card is going to be able to come out of the AFC North. I'm still not losing my hopes about the Steelers making the playoffs, but my prospects of them winning the division has drastically diminished simply because of Michael Vick. Even though Michael Vick, I still believe in him compared to at least 10 other starting quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is it's a huge drop-off from Big Ben Roethlisberger to Michael Vick. Now, if you're the Steelers, you can get the running game going. Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams, the combo of the two. If you're an Antonio Brown, you can do some things in special teams, not just as a receiver. Also, there's a deep threat because we all know that Michael Vick has an arm. So he can make some things happen. Plus, he can make some things happen with his feet. That's why I'm not saying they're going to completely fall off the wagon, go 0-4, 1-3. But I just believe that you don't have Big Ben Roethlisberger there and then lose him, and suddenly you're not going to have a precipitous drop-off. That's where my mentality is right now, Skip. I still believe they will make the playoffs, but I have serious doubts as to whether or not they're going to be able to win the division crown, because I think by the time week 8, 9, and beyond comes up, and they play the Bengals that 5th game, which is when Ben Roethlisberger conceivably could come back, even though he could be gone for that week as well. I just believe that by that time, the Cincinnati Bengals will have built too big of an edge, and that's my concern.
Are you ready to crown the Bengals in the North?
No, I'm not.
No?
I don't trust them. I don't trust them. But they are the best. They are the best team right now. They are the best team. I got to look at their schedule, too. But I'm pretty close to that because I don't think the Ravens are coming back, and I don't know if the Steelers can win. It depends on how soon. Like, say, for example, I'll tell you this. I'll crown the Bengals AFC North champions if Big Ben Roethlisberger is going to be out for more than 4 weeks.
Okay.
Michael Vick needs to stay healthy, too. They need a backup for him.
No question. Absolutely. But of those 4 games, if all we're talking about is those 4 games, I still think the Steelers have an outside chance.
Okay, before I answer Molly's question, allow me to say that I picked the St. Louis Rams to win this game yesterday, and I was dead wrong. I bet on Foles gold. Not Fool's gold, but Foles gold. Because I bet on Nick Foles.
Hold on, Elizabeth, I'm coming to join you.
I know.
Is this Skip Bayless admitting? Is this Skip?
Yes.
Hold on, I remember him celebrating my elevated, knowledge about the game of football, and he said, "Now, if you could just get your picks right." Okay. And is this Skip admitting?
I always admit.
Wow.
I always admit. I haven't had to admit any this year.
I'm just touched.
So far.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
So the point is that Foles gold was a bad pick by me, even though his QBR wasn't terrible yesterday. But the point was they had 10 chances to win that game, and they couldn't convert a 3rd down. They went 2 for 10 against the Steelers defense that I think has suddenly caught fire. I remember the debacle in the preseason against Buffalo when they got wiped off the map by the Buffalo Bills. It actually said more about here come the Bills than there go the Steelers defenders, because they played great yesterday. 2 for 10 on 3rd down. It's at St. Louis. I know they don't draw very well, but the crowd they did have is you'd think it'd be in their corner. I guess it wasn't, and you lose 12-6, and you have 10 chances to pull that game out. Okay, now back to the question. I am not giving up on your Steelers. You're close. I'm not close. And it was heartwarming to me that there is one man and only one man who gave Michael Vick a job, because I don't think he'd be in football except for Mike Tomlin. Am I right about that?
That's absolutely right.
Okay, so I love that, because I know we've been through all the dog stuff. I don't want to start in that. But I love what Michael Vick has made himself into as a man and a football player, even though he has taken a horrendous beating, as you keep pointing out what you're lying about.
That's right. Got hit in the ribs and grabbed his head.
Okay, because he's had head injuries right and left.
Right.
Okay, but if you give Mike Tomlin a few days, and obviously they're playing on a very short week, to try to install some things that Michael can still do at this advanced age with all of his cumulative injuries that he suffered, I think they're going to be okay. And I also believe that Ben Roethlisberger, remember his motorcycle accident, how fast he came back from that? I thought he just about, God rest his, it's like he almost left us that day, because that was close to being the end for him.
Question.
And he bounced right back, and I thought it was going to be debilitating for him going forward, and he's as strong as ever. Well, you don't think he can come off an MCL sprain in 4 weeks, maybe 3? You might be surprised. They're probably saying 4 to 6 just to keep everybody at bay, but you don't think he could bounce back at least in 4 weeks?
I think things with the upper extremities, I have no doubt. with the lower extremities is a bit different because you've got to worry. It's not so much about him just being well enough to play. It's about what you have to concern about in terms of what you expose him to. So if he's not 100%, why are you going to throw him out there in week 6, week 7? Now, if it was week 14, you're vying for a playoff spot and the season's on the line, you take your chances. But if you know you're going to need him for the stretch run, and at the worst case scenario is he'll be back for the entire second half of the season, are you going to want to risk that in order to rush him back early? That's where, to me, that's where Vic's performance over the next few games will define.
All right, but when I look at their schedule, can Michael Vick beat the Baltimore Ravens on Thursday night at home? I give him a shot.
I think so.
I give him a shot.
I believe the Steelers can win that game.
Again, you got not one, but you have 2 really good running backs. And you can figure out how to get Michael in situations that can benefit him and some other ways to get the ball to Antonio Brown. Maybe you run reverses. Maybe you run slot handoff reverses. You know, little things you can do. Okay? So I look at, then they go to San Diego. The Chargers are a supreme disappointment to me because so far they've beaten only one team when Phillip Rivers completed his last 20 passes. Guess who that was? The Detroit Lions. So we're going to talk about them later. But you know what we think about the Detroit Lions, right? Okay. So can Pittsburgh go win that game at San Diego? I give them a shot. Then they have to come home, face Arizona. Probably not. At Kansas City, probably not. But still, if you look at what's going to happen in this division, and it's hard to play down the schedule because it gets complex, the Ravens ain't dead yet. If you look all the way down their schedule, and we don't have time to go game by game because it just blows your mind.
We'll revisit the AFC
But trust me, if you go down their schedule, you'll start saying, wait a second, they could win that one, then they could get on a roll and win that one and that one. They're still not, schedule-wise, they're not dead yet. While Cincinnati at 3-0, looking like the world beater that they are, they have Kansas City and Seattle at home. Are you sure they're going to win both those games? Because I'm not.
They're definitely going to lose one of them.
All right. Okay,
they're definitely going to lose one of them.
Then they go to Buffalo. You give them, I'm going Buffalo all day on that game because Buffalo is serious business on offense and defense.
Well, Tyrod Taylor has shocked me.
He's been sensational. The only thing Buffalo has done wrong so far this year is they played Tom Brady at home. That's the only thing they've done wrong. Other than that, they're just wiping people up here. So, again, can Cincinnati go up there and win? I don't think so. So they're going to start to drift back to the pack. Then they have to go to Pittsburgh after a bye week. Well, here you go. So all of a sudden this division will be up for grabs. Now, I'm with you. It might be difficult for a wild card team to come out of here. But somebody's going to come out of here, and I think that's still way up for grabs with just 3 games in the bank so far.
Okay. I mean, I feel you on that. I'm just concerned about Michael Vick, particularly on the road. And not only that, his durability as well. You can't rely on it. I think that Michael Vick can still make plays. I think that he can still lead this team to victory so long as he's healthy. And by the way, protects the ball because that was one of the things he didn't do yesterday either.
I know.
You know, so we got to watch out for that. He's got to do those 2 things: stay healthy and protect the ball. Don't turn the ball over. And I think if he's able to do that, that's fine. But when you bring up these teams, you know, obviously to a lesser degree the Ravens, because I think all they have is Steve Smith to throw the ball to. But you got Phillip Rivers back there flinging the ball in San Diego. I'm looking at the Chiefs. They are not a joke. Even though I don't expect their wide receivers to catch touchdown passes, it doesn't mean Kelsey and Macklin and the boys can't do some damage, you know, in Kansas City's passing game. And then, of course, there's Arizona, who is a team that none of us can sleep on. And we all know that the Steelers, even though their defense stepped up yesterday, their secondary is suspect. It's just that St. Louis's offense is suspect. And as a result of that, that's why the game ended up being the way that it was yesterday. So, again, the opponents you take into consideration, I get that point. But when I look at stout defenses that have the potential to get a quarterback, Skip, I worry about Michael Vick. I worry about Michael Vick.
Short term, I don't. Because I think Mike Tomlin will do everything in his power to prop him up and protect him and put him in a place that he can not only survive in, but maybe flourish a little bit.
But you keep mentioning Tomlin, and you're not mentioning Todd Haley enough, who for the most part gets to run that offense. And I don't trust Haley. I think Haley's innovative. I think he can make things happen. I think he's a good offensive coordinator, but sometimes he does the inexplicable, and sometimes it's to the detriment of his team.
We were both shocked when they signed Michael Vick to be elevated above a Landry Jones, who's a very poor man's Ben Roethlisberger, you know, the big kid, big strapping kid in the pocket. And we're saying, well, wait a second, how's Michael Vick going to run Ben's offense? Well, he can't. So now you're going to have to junk it. You're going to have to do night and day from Ben and hope you can survive, I think, for 4 weeks.
Good luck with it.
The Atlanta Falcons beat Dallas 39-28 Sunday in the Cowboys' first game without Tony Romo and Dez Bryant. The Cowboys, now 2-1, had a 6-game regular season win streak snapped. It truly was a tale of two halves for the Cowboys' rushing attack, especially. Now look at these numbers. In the first half, they ran all over the Falcons, rushing 16 times for over 130 yards with 4 scores, 3 by Joseph Randle, 1 TD by Darren McFadden. In the second half, they rushed just 5 times for -4 yards and no scores. Skip, I am very eager to hear this. How confident are you in your Cowboys now?
You all right, man?
I'm not all right, to be honest with you. I must admit, I'm still pretty shook up from what I saw in the second half.
Yeah.
And just give me a moment here to try to work through it on the air, on live TV. I'm going to try to work through my emotions.
I want you to know.
All right, because they're rubble right now.
You can take up my time.
All right.
Take your
Thank
time.
you.
Please.
To answer Molly's question, my confidence is shaken but not broken, because I still believe my Cowboys can win the NFC East, because I don't trust any of those 3 other teams enough to say, uh-oh, we're in big trouble. And I must tell you, I didn't like what I saw in the first half. I flat out loved it, which is why I went from all-time elation to deflation. Would it have really helped to bank a win to get to 3-0? You better believe it would have helped, Stephen A., because you know what's coming. Nothing good is coming except no Romo and no Dez. So I'm here to tell you that – you all right, Molly? Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay. I'm here to tell you – so just give me a second,
Yep.
okay? That in all my years of covering my Dallas Cowboys, or even watching them back to the time I was 10 years old, in all my years of covering the National Football League back to the 70s, I do not remember a single game I've watched in which a home team completely dominated the first half and then got even more dominated on their home turf in the second half. I've never seen anything quite like that. So when I look at Brandon Whedon's offense scored 28 in the first half, and Joseph Randle and Darren McFadden absolutely ran wild on the Atlanta Falcons. Are you kidding me? I'm taking that to the – no, I'm not taking it to the bank. At halftime, I cannot tell you how confident I was they could even win a shootout with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. I'm thinking, hey, we could score 40 here. Maybe it'll take 45, but we're capable of doing it with this offensive line, which no-showed in the second half and got its golden tails kicked all the way back into the locker room by the Atlanta defense. -4 yards rushing in the second half. Again, you can't have it both ways, because they did pretty much abandon the run, but after a while they didn't have any choice. So you can't condemn Brandon Whedon for not throwing the ball downfield, because all any of us really wanted was for them to run the football in the second half and eat the clock. And I look at Brandon Whedon. Tell me this, if I told you on Friday that Brandon Whedon would go 22 of 26 for 232 with only 1 interception, I know it was a killer, but it was only 1, wouldn't you say, wow, that's pretty good, you got a shot? If I told you we would run the ball for 127 yards, wouldn't you say, hey, I don't know, that combination, that's pretty good? And we got blown off our own field. What happened to me? I thought, okay, let me just first say this. Matt Ryan to Julio Jones is a special connection right now, to where they're going to do that to everybody they face, because they've already done it to 3 teams. Remember Matt Stafford to Megatron the last 5 or 6 years? Nobody had any more confidence than Matt Stafford had in Megatron. He no longer has that confidence because Calvin's no longer Megatron, right? So we saw last night on Sunday Night Football, Matt Stafford's starting to look pretty ordinary to me, right? Okay, in this case, Matt Ryan, who I'm not the biggest fan of, is starting to look like Tom Brady, because all he does is drop back and look for 11. Where's 11? Oh, I'll just throw it over there. It's triple coverage. Nobody cares. Just throw it in his direction, and he will go snatch it, and he will run with it. That's hard to deal with. And then, listen, you're going to scoff at this, but my sack leader from last year, Jeremy Mincey, wound up getting a concussion in the warm-ups at Philadelphia, or so he said. He played the Philly game. He practiced this week. Then at game time, they decided, we better hold you out. That's my sack leader from last year. Now the Cowboys are down to their 4th right defensive end. Well, they got Matt Ryan one time. No defensive lineman got to him. Sean Lee got to him once. And speaking of Sean Lee, for a crucial stretch of the second half, Sean Lee got his lip busted and had to go get stitches, and he was gone for several crucial series in the second half. He's all I got left on defense, okay? And I told you Ronald Leary, my starting left guard, would play because they said all week he's going to play. He did not play yesterday. So now we're down to Lyle Collins, he's pretty good, but he's a rookie. So all of a sudden, it just cratered, just like it did last year, at home against San Francisco and Washington on Monday Night Football. Remember that debacle? And then the Eagles on Thanksgiving night at Jerry World. Remember that debacle? This team can be terrible at home, but I thought off the first half that I liked what I saw. So I'm not going to give up. I'm going to still say my glass is barely half full, but the second half, listen, I was just reeling from it because my jaw stayed on the floor the whole second half. Go ahead.
I want you to have more time. Because I need an answer to a particular question that I have not got from you, to be quite honest with you. And that beautiful soliloquy that you just put out there. Sean Lee's gone. Leary's gone. Mincy, he can't play the game.
Yeah.
Well, then why would you be upset? Because obviously they'll be back. What are you worried about?
Because they were that close to banking a third win that they're going to need before this is over.
Skip Bayless, usually you're fond of saying this. You know, Stephen A., sometimes I think I know you better than you know yourself.
I do.
Well, that works two ways.
I disagree.
Because we go back so long. Let me tell you what I'm hearing from Skip Bayless. I'm going to tell you what I'm hearing. I want you to pay attention to this, Molly. This is very, very important.
I'm listening.
You understand? Because Skip trying to hoodwink America. See, they don't know you how I know you. Let me tell you what's going on right now, Skip Bayless. You're nervous because you know. No. I'm not talking about nervous as in, oh, I don't have my horses. I'm saying nervous that that's even how you feel when they get back. Because whether Romo is there or Des Bryant is there, what alarms you is that you saw somebody that could potentially be a playoff team that's indicative of the kind of competition that you're going to go up against when it really, really counts. And you know that there were holes that were exposed in your secondary, and you don't like it one bit. And as a result, here's why Skip Bayless is feeling the way that he's feeling today. Forget this one loss. We understand that. Brandon Whedon, he played a relatively good game. He was spectacular in the first half as far as I was concerned. Stupid interception that he threw when they were up 21-7. Changed the complete complexion of the game. Atlanta went right back. They were up 21-7. Atlanta went right back down and scored. Devontae Freeman obviously went ballistic. We all know the story. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is this. You recognize there's some holes in your secondary. You recognize, more importantly than anything else, like you started out saying, NFC East, fine. But you picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
I did.
And what you saw, yeah, but that's just emotion talking. That's just emotion. Not. Yeah, it is. That's your heart talking. That ain't your head talking. You know what's going on. You know what you've done to yourself. You pigeonholed yourself. You put yourself in a spot where you said that the Dallas Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl. And you know what I know.
What?
That there's no way they're going to the Super Bowl. They're not going. They're not going to the Super Bowl. You saw it yesterday because you know no matter when Greg Hardy gets back, when Randy Gregory gets back healthy, even if Sean Lee comes back, O'Leary's here, Mincy comes back, you know in your heart of hearts that the Dallas Cowboys and that suspect secondary with Orlando Scandrick, who's actually coming on the show soon, not today, but he'll be on here soon enough. I can't wait for a Dallas Cowboy to sit right there in that chair. It's going to be a fun day for me. I'm here to tell you right now, you know what's going on here. You know that the Dallas Cowboys sitting up there getting ran on like that by Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones, looking like the best receiver in football, doing what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it, how he wanted to do it, abusing the Dallas Cowboys. You know what's coming. You know that your Dallas Cowboys are going to go down. And like I said before, by the way, this won't be the last injury. Think about this for a second. All the things that I've said. This is football. and Sean Lee is going for a busted lip. I mean, you can't make this up. This is the Dallas Cowboys we're talking about.
Listen,
here.
I will admit to you, I thought he'd just stay in the game.
I'm just saying.
I guess he's bleeding
really,
too bad.
Really?
I did.
But now let's stitch it up and go there when they're on offense. I mean, are you kidding me?
Just swallow it.
Football.
Just swallow it. Just play. I needed it.
Listen.
I needed it.
I'm just saying.
Suck it up and play.
It's hilarious to me because you got Joseph Randle. It was nice to see him in the news for something football related, as opposed to stealing draws. He looked spectacular. He really did. But it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful to see him in the news for football related matters, as opposed to his issues at department stores. It was very, very touching. So then you got that going on, and Sean Lee with the buzz. Hey, listen, deodorant and drawers. Come on now, it's too funny. It's just uncomfortable to me. It's just funny to me. I'm sorry. The Dallas Cowboys will find a way. Skip, you lost a game yesterday to some degree because Sean Lee decided to leave games, as you say, labeled it, for critical stretches because of a busted lip. Because of a busted lip. You understand? This is unbelievable to me. But it's the Cowboys, like I keep telling you. So once again, proof has been provided to me that the Dallas Cowboys will find a way to get in their own way. They can accumulate all the talent that they want in the world. Somehow, some way, what can go wrong will. When it's time, Dallas Cowboys, no Super Bowl. And that's why you're sitting up there looking all nervous and upset. Because you know, yes you do, you know that the Dallas Cowboys ain't going to the Super Bowl. That's what you discovered yesterday.
Nope,
just admit it. Just admit it. Admit it.
I told you I was flummoxed by what happened yesterday, and I still haven't recovered from yesterday. But all I care about now is what is coming back. Because if, in fact, Greg Hardy had been eligible to play yesterday, and Randy Gregory had been healthy yesterday, and Jeremy Mincey hadn't had some freakish concussion suffered in pregame warm-ups, hitting Ty Smith's helmet head-to-head, really? Do you know what would happen to Matt Ryan in the second half?
They're great against. They are great doing that, and
they would have been all over.
Actually, they're great against the pass. They would not be great against the run. Devontae Freeman still would have done what he did.
Okay, Matt Ryan was able to call dominoes in the pocket yesterday in the second half, and I couldn't believe it because they're usually not like that.
That's right.
Until I realized, wait a minute, Mincey's not in the game. What's going on?
Rod Marinelli pacing up and down the sideline, looking all flummoxed, to use your word. It was very, very cute. But once again, like I said, what really is revealing here in this segment, Skip Bayless is trying to gloss over the reality that he has finally discovered. Dallas ain't going nowhere this year.
Yeah, they are.
Dallas, they're going to playoffs like they did last year, and they're going to go home. Just like they did last year. That's all that's going to happen. That's all you saw. That's all you saw. I'm pleased. I'm very pleased.
What are they now? Are they 0-3?
No.
No, they're 2-1. Do they have 2 division wins banked?
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
Did they come very close to banking another game and go to 3-0?
Yes, they did.
Right? Now they have to go to New Orleans on Sunday Night Football.
And they'll win that game, probably.
Luke McCown, right?
They should beat Luke McCown.
Who knows if
they should beat Luke McCown.
I don't know. Luke McCown was really good.
He really looked impressive.
Yesterday.
He really looked good. I was very impressed.
It took an all-time great catch of an interception by Josh Norman to save the game. So are they legit?
But I don't believe in Rob Ryan's defense. I believe that when it's time for them to sink, they will. They're sort of like the Dallas Cowboys, except it's just on defense. Whereas the Dallas Cowboys are that way, period.
Okay. What did you tell me last year? 3 times on 2 Mondays and a Friday. You came in here and said Cowboys ain't going nowhere after they stunk up and laid an egg in their home opener against the 49ers. You said, would you get them out of my sight? I'm sick of talking about them. Then what happened after the Monday night game, so it was actually a Tuesday show, right, against the Washington Redskins, when they blitzed Romo silly and knocked him out of the game, remember that? And the offensive line looked like a sieve, remember that? And you said, Cowboys ain't going nowhere. And then Thursday, the Thanksgiving game at home against Mark Sanchez, he ran and threw wild on them that day. Remember that? And on Friday, you sat right. We were actually both in New York City, but you said they ain't going nowhere. And where did they go? They almost got to the Super Bowl. That's where they almost went.
I'm sorry. My definition of almost is when you're in the conference championship game. My definition of
Well, it was
almost
a catch.
My definition of almost is not applicable.
Was it a catch?
Well, no,
Yes, she said it was a catch. Thank you.
My
They would've
definition
won
of
that game.
almost is applicable to the NFC championship game. It doesn't qualify for the divisional playoff game. That's number one. And number two, and more importantly, as I don't mind regurgitating, I will do this until the cows come home. You keep like you engage in selective amnesia at this point.
No, I just
You
point
keep
out the
talking about the
facts.
catch.
Yeah.
How much time was left?
It was just about done.
No, how much time?
I don't
no,
know.
It was a couple of minutes.
Yeah, but he was
It a couple of
hurt.
minutes. Tell me.
He was hurt.
I believe it. Yeah, and he was still doing that.
remembers
That's right. He remembers
everything.
everything, but you don't remember that.
Everything.
It's just funny. It's just funny. You forget that, but that's okay. My point to you is this.
Monday
I
show
am of the
6 years
belief.
ago.
I never once said that I did not think it was a catch. What I said was, I didn't care. It didn't matter because that would have given Aaron Rodgers the ball with enough time to do damage, and he would have. That is what I said.
They
On
would have
one
made
leg,
the
by the
play.
way. By the way, I'm glad you reminded me of that.
He was
beat
hurt.
the Cowboys on one leg.
was hurt.
On one leg.
Yeah, because the refs took the
on
game
one
away.
leg.
It was the crime of the century. And
Walking
you
like
know
my
it.
boy Cardell,
Yeah.
sitting up in there throwing touchdown passes.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
They had already won at Seattle in the regular
Okay.
season. They would have gone right back,
All right.
and they would have won again and
All
been
right.
in the Super Bowl. And
Okay.
this year, they will right the wrongs as they start getting healthy and start getting their reinforcements in. Watch what starts to happen.
Okay, I'm just telling you, keep in mind, the regular season and all stuff, I've already conceded that the Dallas Cowboys are going to the playoffs. I said that before even when we made our preseason predictions. Dallas Cowboys are going to the playoffs. What I said was they will not go to the Super Bowl. Something will happen on the way, and it's going to break your heart. They're not the San Antonio Spurs. San Antonio Spurs lose a game like yesterday. They come back and they win and they win and they win, even though
Well,
you
they
act
only play
depressed.
82,
The Dallas,
right?
I'm just saying, they find ways.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys will not. They don't have that kind of makeup. Just want you to know.
Well,
that.
so are you ready to say they won't make the playoffs?
No, I
Because-
never said that. I said
Well,
they're not
they
going to make the
lost
Super Bowl.
Romo and Diaz. Come on.
No,
Have
they don't
some guts.
No, not at all.
Well, you
Not
have
at
the
all.
courage
Not
and
at
the
all.
convictions. You can't shame them like that and say they're going to make
You can't
playoffs.
change everything when I've already admitted to the world. I put on Dallas Cowboy gear for the week.
That's
They
pathetic.
won't make the Super Bowl.
At least say they won't make the playoffs.
Not at all. I'm having fun imagining the level of misery you're going to feel. See, when you just plummet like that, that's entirely different than when you go all the way up and then you drop. I want them to do that.
Like a roller coaster?
It's coming.
Okay,
It's
well,
coming.
are you
It's coming.
nervous they're not going to even make the playoffs?
Not at all.
Not at all?
Not at all. Not at all.
Well, all that was for naught then.
Well, you know, look at
you know
listen,
what?
listen.
That makes me feel
In the
even better.
Listen, in the NFC North, there's only Green Bay as far as I'm concerned, regardless of how Minnesota looked yesterday. In the NFC South, okay, you've got Atlanta and you've got Carolina, so you got to pay attention to both of those teams. I'll give you that. But then in the NFC West is Seattle, Arizona. So it's a very, very good chance that no matter what, whether this is a division winner or a wild card, the Dallas Cowboys are going to make the playoffs.
Last point.
I understand.
I've told you my Cowboys, for reasons unbeknownst to me, are often pathetic at home. On the road, though, they have now won, what is it up to, 10 in a row on the road?
It'll
dating
end
back
this
2
year.
years?
They
Huh?
won't win every road game this year.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go on record. In the playoffs, I want Atlanta at Atlanta. I want it bad.
Okay.
Because the story will be reversed.
You can want what you want.
Yeah, watch.
You can get what you want. It ain't gonna end up with a Super Bowl, bro. I promise you that.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Carolina is now 3-0 for the first time since reaching the Super Bowl in 2003, defeating the division rival Saints Sunday in New Orleans 27-22. But everything didn't go Carolina's way. During the game, Cam took a hit near the sideline as he released the ball. Now, after he got up looking for a flag and turned toward the referee, Ed Hochuli, for explanation. Then Hochuli said something to Cam that just absolutely stunned him. Take a listen.
The response that I got was, Cam, you're not old enough to get that call. So I'm looking at him like, what? Jesus, I didn't think you had to have seniority to get a personal foul or anything like that. I'm ticked off, really. You know, just the fact that it's kind of one, did he miss the call? If he would have said he missed the call, okay, that's one thing. But for his response to be what it was, I'm not old enough to get that call. Jeez. So heaven forbid he gets any rookies. They're going to have a long day, man.
Ooh. NFL VP of officiating Dan Blandino was on NFL Network this morning and said that Ed Hochuli denied saying this, but Blandino also said if the conversation is confirmed after an investigation, Hochuli could face discipline. Skip, what do you make of all this?
Stephen A., I'm on Cam's side here. Now, I'm having to take Cam's word for it that Ed Hochuli said to him what Cam said that he said, but the way Cam said it in his post-game media session came across to me as completely authentic. He didn't seem to be guessing about it. He seemed 100% sure that's what Ed Hochuli said to him as soon as he bounced up without getting a call. So, to me, if that's true, now I'm going to guess that it was true, but I could be wrong. Maybe we'll hear from Ed Hochuli today. I don't know. We haven't
he
heard
needs
from him.
to say something.
He does need to say something. I'm with you on that. If he did say that, it was completely out of bounds, and he should be disciplined for saying that to him. Now, we don't usually hear this in the sport of football. We hear it a lot in baseball, that there'll be a lot of back and forth between a plate ump and a pitcher after the game. They'll fire back and forth verbal volleys. But I can't remember the last time that it came out after an NFL game, the quarterback calling out the head referee. Remember, he's the crew chief. And just for those who don't know, he's become something at Hochuli of a celebrity ref in the National Football League. This is his 26th season, and for 24 of those seasons, he has been a crew chief. So he was the big cheese right away as a young referee. And he has often been voted by coaches as one of the top officials in football, one of the top referees. And he's also become something of a celebrity ref in that he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated in 2012 when the refs, the impasse, where the labor impasse ended.
They cheered when they came back.
But my question to you, and I'm throwing it out to our viewers, is it possible that Ed Hochuli has gotten a little too full of himself, that he's going to now interpret the rules the way he wants to interpret the rules? What I don't get is, Cam's not a young player anymore. This is his 5th year. I don't consider him a young pup anymore at age 26. And so I'm having to guess what Ed was trying to say to him. Is he saying that only aging quarterbacks who are immobile get that kind of call? I don't know. Is he saying that Cam's still young enough and mobile enough and just good enough that I'm not going to give you that call? Well, if that's what he's saying, that is so out of bounds because you're now reffing players by their ability or their age, and as Cam said, what's he going to say to a rookie? You know what? It's not fair to Cam Newton, and I'm happy that he called him out, but in the end, you know and I know, this may not play well with other referees around the league, that you broke the vow of silence on the football field. What is said here stays here. It's out there in public now, and I'm not sure that Cam set himself up for getting exactly preferential treatment from this point forward from other referees. Fire away.
I have a bevy of thoughts on this issue. Number one, I completely believe Cam Newton. That's number one.
Me too.
It is, to be fair to Ed Hochuli, we haven't heard his side. We haven't heard from him directly. So in the interest of fairness, we have to throw that caveat out there. But I don't think that Cam's words alone is just piercing. I think the fact that he has it supported by video really highlights it. If you look, you can't tell what Cam Newton is saying. I almost had to sneeze, excuse me. It's saying that, there you go. That's what I need to get out. You can't say for sure nobody heard what Hochuli said to him. But look at Cam's reaction. Look at how he stops and looks at him and then walks back.
I'm with you.
You clearly could see that Hochuli said something to him that made him stop, which is why the reporter, smart enough to pick up on it, asked, what was that about? And Cam highlighted what was said to him. So on that point, you're absolutely right. When you speak to the issue of an official and him talking about Cam's lack of seniority, it's a couple of things you peel from that, Skip. Number one, are you really saying, because Cam's not that young anymore, like you said, he's been in the league 5 years. So what are you trying to say? He's not Drew Brees? He's not Big Ben? He's not Tom Brady? He's not Peyton Manning? Because that's what you're saying.
I think
that's
so.
Basically what you're saying. What else is there to say? How many quarterbacks in the NFL have been starting quarterbacks for five plus seasons? I mean, think about that for a second here. Go down a list of quarterbacks. I mean, the Carson Palmers of the world, you can throw him out there.
Sure.
Russell Wilson is younger. You know, I mean, Nick Foles is younger. Teddy Bridgewater is younger. Aaron Rodgers obviously is up in there. You know, that equation. Matthew Stafford. What you gonna say? Matthew Stafford isn't young enough. So he's clearly talking about a class system here. He ain't talking about youth and tenure. He's talking about class. If indeed he had said those things to Cam Newton. My last point that I would like to make, and Skip, allow me to spread or transcend from football to baseball as well. You know, I watched Madison Bumgarner for the San Francisco Giants pitch last week and have a 17-second stare down with the umpire. Let me tell you how egregious that was. Right? The play umpire, right? Let me tell you how egregious that was. Not only because of the fact that the umpire was literally instigating it, okay, by taking off his mask and staring down Bumgarner. Bumgarner threw strikes. Those should have been called strikes. And the umpire had an attitude with him and clearly did not call strikes. Why am I bringing that up? Because when we talk about Ed Hochuli with Cam Newton, if indeed you're refraining from making calls because of something other than the actual game itself and the rules that govern it, and instead you're personalizing it to some degree, you got a problem. You got to go. Now, I understand that baseball is different from football. My argument is that it shouldn't be. No matter what the sport is, there isn't a fan in those seats who come to see the umpire or the game official. I promise you, those fans who walk through the turnstiles, even though to a lesser degree it's about the players in the National Football League, because it's just football, it's an event, it's only 16 games during the season, I promise you they would rather see Cam Newton than Ed Hochuli. And I promise you, those folks that walked through the turnstiles for that game that San Francisco was playing with the Giants, the San Francisco Giants were playing, I promise you they wanted to come and see the reigning MVP of the World Series, Madison Bumgarner. Come out there and pitch.
Totally agree.
So when you've got that problem,
I know,
it's got to be addressed across the board, because the fans are being robbed as much as anybody else when that happens.
Okay. I'm going to remind you again, Hochuli is probably the most recognizable referee going right now, in part because of his big biceps that he's shown often, you know, just for his muscles. He became like a cult figure. Okay, I'm with you. It doesn't matter. But what I'm saying, if you look at the psychology here, he's been so recognizable for so long, he may think that he's now a star referee. That should be an oxymoron. Star referee should not go together. Am I right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Because they're always the best. What's the old saying about, it's mostly for baseball umpires, but they're at their best when you did not notice them. Is that not right?
Yes.
Yes.
But let me ask
basketball referees.
Let me throw you this question. How many fans do you know who the game officials are going to be prior to their arrival to the game?
Some gamblers probably do. But
I understand gamblers.
That's about it.
That's about it. Nobody else knows who the hell the referees are going to be, who the officials are going to be prior to the game. You understand? It's the most thankless job you can fathom, which is why I understand how they could get a bit sensitive.
Okay.
But in the end, you can't allow that to interfere with your job performance. Okay. And that is what
bottom line,
these officials are doing.
Do you have any concern that Cam could, quote unquote, pay for this going forward because it will offend other referees who would defend Hochuli?
Well, yeah, I'm fearful for Cam, because I think those referees can definitely stand up in unison and said he called him out. That means he'll call us out next. We have to make sure he understands that's not to his advantage to do that. I have no doubt that will be done.
But I still appreciate that he called him out.
Yeah, I'm just fearful how often this might actually happen. Meanwhile, Ben Roethlisberger left Sunday's game with a sprained MCL and a bone bruise, not a tear of his ACL. That part's good news, which will likely sideline him 4 to 6 weeks. Now, the Steelers, without Roethlisberger, will try and catch the Bengals, who improved to 3-0 after rallying to beat the winless Ravens. The Browns fell to 1-2 after losing to the Raiders on Sunday. We asked you guys earlier in the show, can the Steelers reach the playoffs without Big Ben for a long stretch? And here are the results. 61% say yes. A lot of optimism.
Yeah.
Welcome to the desk, Eric Allen. Now, so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How much of an impact will this injury have on the whole AFC North?
It's going to be big, of course. Big Ben is the guy who, for most parts, fuels that engine that is the offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have outstanding personnel. AB, Antonio Brown is amazing. Bell is amazing. They'll get their second receiver back in a couple of weeks. So, again, without Big Ben, this conference is totally different. Again, I think the Cincinnati Bengals have a great opportunity to be the champs, but the Steelers still have an opportunity to reach the playoffs as a wild card. You know, if Michael Vick is able, and that's the one big thing, is the turnovers. He can't have turnovers, and in his history, he's had tremendous turnovers. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. In about 6 weeks, I think under 20 balls a game, throwing-wise, really focus on the run. The 50-50 balls have to go his way. And again, he's not going to be able to do the same things that Big Ben does. They're going to have to limit what he sees, maybe a top read, maybe 2 reads at a time, and then be able to take off. But the most important thing for Michael Vick and this offense is to protect the football and lean on the running game and the defense to win football games for him.
Stephen?
I'm wondering, why are we still asking questions about Michael Vick as if we don't know? Don't we know that his durability is a huge question mark?
Yeah.
Don't we know that his ability to run with the football supersedes his ability to throw the football,
yeah,
meaning accurately? Don't we know that if it were not for Mike Tomlin, practically no one would have picked him up in the entire NFL? So if we know that, why do we believe that the Steelers still have a chance? I think we gotta come to that. We gotta at least ask ourselves that question. Their running game.
Yep.
Because your receivers don't mean anything if you don't have somebody to throw you the football. So their running game and their defense is what we're going to have to rely on. Now, I'm all for relying on Le'Veon Bell and D'Angelo.
You have to.
I'm all for relying on Antonio Brown and special teams. I'm all for relying on the occasional deep throw, because Michael Vick can fling that football, and Antonio Brown can catch it. And once Martavis Bryant comes back to join Marcus Wheaton and those boys, I definitely think that they could potentially be lethal, at least with their running game and it being used as a decoy to facilitate some semblance of a passing game. But the combination of Vick's durability and his accuracy as a thrower, combined with the Steelers' secondary, has me concerned. Not concerned enough to surmise that they'll miss the playoffs, but it does have me concerned about their ability to win the AFC North, particularly with Cincinnati showing up in a regular season the way that it does. I don't expect Cincinnati to get anywhere.
Right,
I mean,
right.
them doing anything in the playoffs would be a bigger shock to me than the Cowboys making the Super Bowl. Okay, so let's be clear about that.
And that's my point also. I think Cincinnati will win. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the heavy running game and those receivers, and those 50-50 balls are going to be important. You have guys who are 6'3", 6'4" on the outside. If Antonio Brown is double covered, you have to win those 50-50 balls. And I think Mike can do that if he's under 20 balls a game.
Okay. Now, help me out. I don't remember that you had an issue when Mike Tomlin signed Mike.
I don't.
Okay.
I did not.
But now you're having real trepidation about whether it's the right fit.
Because of how many games Roethlisberger is going to be out. I have no problem with Vic being a backup. I think he deserves it. Okay, and I think that, you got a lot of people out there that got some huge question marks about him, but I still think that he's a playmaker. What I'm saying is it's an entirely different ball game when you have to come into a game because your quarterback gets hurt, and when you have to stay in for several weeks at a time because he's out. Because now they get to plan for you, as opposed to having to deal with you because modifications must take place because in the throes of a game, Vic had to come in. Like yesterday, him coming in against St. Louis. It's tough to St. Louis's defense can be. I have no problem with that because that's ideal. But if St. Louis got to plan a week in advance for Michael Vick, I would have been considerably more worried.
Yeah, but what if the Steelers had gotten to plan plays for Michael Vick to run? Because he tried to go in and basically run what the game plan was, which wasn't fair to Michael Vick. I understand. Because he's not been.
Well, I'm not denying that, but I'm going by the Michael Vick that I saw in the latter part of the year, Philadelphia
right here,
and
right
New
now?
York.
Okay. Could you make a case they would have been better off for a 4 to 6 game stretch with Landry Jones as their backup quarterback?
I can't because I haven't seen Landry Jones since college.
Okay. Well, I saw him a lot in college, and I told you I didn't love him in college.
Right.
But he played in a whole lot of big football games in college.
Yep.
And if memory serves, he was their second-round pick because he was a poor man's Roethlisberger.
Right.
He's about 6'5", I don't know what he is, 235 or 40.
Right.
He's right out of the same mold, except he ain't that guy. He's not that other guy.
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, Let me just say this before I go on. I wanted to say it early in the show. It kills me that we're having this conversation right now because I hate it when great quarterbacks go down. It is terrible for this league. It's terrible that Tony Romo's not playing right now. You can kid me, I can kid you about Roethlisberger, but it's just terrible.
I agree with you.
It's no fun. It hurts the show. It hurts this network.
Hey, listen.
It hurts.
I'm the guy that was on the record, Skip, even with the whole Deflategate scandal. I didn't want Tom Brady to be suspended. I said, who wants to see football without it?
You're right. You're right. Okay. And do I think it was a cheap shot on Barron's part? It wasn't a cheap shot. He's crawling after Ben, and Ben's trying to go forward. He's trying to run with the football, and it's just freakish. And I don't even know how you can't. It's
football. It's
just football. You can't legislate it out of football. That was just football. Okay.
Got it.
So now, this division is reminding me a whole lot of the NFC East because there was one really good quarterback here. And he's gone, and obviously Eli's still a very good quarterback, so maybe that doesn't apply. But I still don't trust the Giants, maybe even as much. I don't know if you trust them yet. I don't. I don't completely. I'm not going to buy completely into the Giants. So my point is, I'm looking at these schedules, and I'm not as sold on Cincinnati as you seem to be, even though, they just keep proving us wrong so far. 3 straight weeks. I didn't even have them in the playoffs. I'll be the first to tell you. So,
you don't?
I didn't have any playoffs before the year started because I had Baltimore in Pittsburgh.
But I had Baltimore got a huge injury.
Both of us did.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, regular season with the Bengals.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're going to get to the playoffs.
Okay. Well, I get it.
Because of Dalton.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And because you've been hard on Marvin Lewis, because you should have been hard on Marvin Lewis, and this was like a make or break kind of year. And it just seems like they might run out of psychological gas here. They finally say, we keep getting there, now we got to get, and finally at some point, you just don't even get there. And it all gets blown up and you start
He's absolutely
over,
right, Eric. That's exactly how I felt about Cincinnati.
Yeah. Okay. So yesterday, Andy Dalton went into Baltimore and pretty dramatically outplayed Joe Flacco.
Yes,
he did. I'll just go on QBR, 89-42. That's pretty dramatic.
Yeah,
so I give it up to Andy Dalton. That was almost like a playoff game, except it wasn't a playoff game. But boy, you went toe-to-toe with those guys, as beat up as they are, and they don't have a Suggs, and they can't run the football, and they have really only one real threat at receiver. And yet, I look down the schedule for the Baltimore Ravens. Just check it out. Again, I don't want to do every game, but after they go to Pittsburgh on Thursday night, they get the Browns at home. Then they go to San Francisco, and they have San Diego at home. And then they have Jacksonville, St. Louis, at Cleveland, at Miami. You don't think they could get on some kind of a roll just because of the Baltimore Ravens?
I think they could, but it's going to be difficult walking into a stadium with one receiver who's 37 and a running game that's so-so, and without that leader on defense and Suggs. And the secondary is not playing very well right now.
You know how many people picked them? I know a lot of people who picked them to be in the Super Bowl, to get to the Super Bowl this year. The Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. Are they suddenly, without Suggs, that much worse than they were in the preseason?
Well, you're talking to a guy who didn't pick them to go to the Super Bowl. So, again, like I said, it's going to be very difficult when you have one receiver to really be explosive enough when we talk about game planning. I'm just going to try and figure out a way to take Steve Smith out of the game plan, make you beat him with someone else, and then attack your secondary. Those are not good combinations to have if you're a team that is trying to get out of an 0-3 hole.
Okay, so back to the Bengals. So you're telling me they got upcoming Kansas City and Seattle at home, then they go to Buffalo and bye and go to Pittsburgh. Are you sure?
That's
sure?
Tough.
I know, it's
That's tough. But
they could lose 2 of those games, maybe 3 of those games. They could.
Yeah, they could. And then they still have their 3-0 at this point. You have the Ben is hurt. We're not sure what's going to happen. He's probably going to be out about 6 weeks.
What if he's not? What if it's 4 weeks?
Well, again, they're going to have some leeway there, I believe, and what they've given themselves in a 3-0 start already. So, again, you're talking about a football team that has done some good things in the regular season, and we're not talking playoffs. I'm not going to start the whole banter, wait until January, wait until December. I think that's unfair. This is a football team. 2015 Cincinnati Bengals are different from the last couple of football teams. I think they have enough in the cupboard to be able to win this division.
Okay. Did you have them before the year went into the division?
No, at the Steelers.
Okay, got it.
The Eagles got back on track on Sunday, beating the Jets 24-17, while the Cowboys looked to have a formula for success in the first half before giving up the lead and losing to the Falcons. And let's not forget about the Giants, who on Thursday night won their first game over the Redskins. The Cowboys still are first in the East at 2-1, while every other team in the division is 1-2. Eric Allen is still here with us, which we appreciate. Eric, your turn to weigh in first. I'm very eager to hear this. Who is going to win the NFC East? I know you're an Eagle.
Yeah, listen, Eagles got a big win. That was a huge win. But there's still a tremendous amount of questions for this football team. I'm glad to see the defensive secondary, 3 interceptions, Walter Thurman, a couple guys coming with some big plays, attacking the football, which is great. First time we've seen that kind of consistency in the backfield for a couple of years now. Offensively, a lot of woes. They had 108 yards. This is the mighty Eagles. 108 yards passing. That's ridiculous.
That's genius. Chip Kelly, genius.
Unbelievable. No big plays. Where's the big plays from the Philadelphia Eagles? We used to see, 20-yard average receivers, guys, catching the ball across the middle. So I'm not sure what's going on with Philadelphia Eagles. My bank and my money is on the Dallas Cowboys.
Thank you.
Even with the injuries.
Who knows
You
what
guys
he's talking
talked
about.
Even with the injuries, and I am not a Cowboys fan, as you know. With all the injuries, this team can run the football effectively, like they showed
in the first half.
Atlanta's a much improved football team. Okay, they do an outstanding job. Julio Jones has like 36 receptions, the most in NFL history in the first 3 games of the season. Very difficult to stop him. The running game was going to have great balance, and they figured out that Wheaton is going to be okay if there's a bounce attack. But if we make him throw, if we stop the run, load the box up, force him to throw the football, there's going to be some issues there. But I think the Cowboys, Rod Marinelli being able to scheme, will be able to overcome some of those issues. I have the Dallas Cowboys eventually winning the NFC East.
Talk more. I want to hear some more.
No, you like that? I know you would like that. I know, and because when Romo gets back and when Dez gets back, hopefully after the break for this football team, they're going to have that guy. Because right now the number 1 receiver, well, he's not getting it done. Terrence is not getting it done.
I thought I told you I didn't want to hear no more from you.
So Dallas Cowboys.
I tried to tell you that.
Winning.
I tried to tell you that. Don't ignore me, Eric. Don't ignore me.
Cowboy hater.
In all seriousness, I've conceded a couple of weeks ago that the Dallas Cowboys are going to win the NFC East.
Hey, look at that.
I said to you that after I saw how atrocious the Philadelphia Eagles were, and in fairness to you guys, I haven't been totally revealing. It's not just the way the Eagles look. It's the way some of those guys I still hear feel about Chip Kelly. Now, I'm not going to revisit that, but that was a very, very real problem. It continues to be a very, very real problem with Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly is a guy that some would say they have won in spite of, not necessarily because. Now, there's but so many jobs in the NFL, and they're going to go play for him because people want to play in the NFL. But the Cats ain't excited about playing for Chip Kelly. The mad genius, Mr. Experiment and all of that other stuff. I mean, that star has dimmed considerably. Make no mistake about it. And I think when you combine that with the weapons that you see Dallas have, even in the midst of them losing the way that they lost yesterday, the only team I see capable of doing that to the Dallas Cowboys, what Atlanta did to them in the second half, is the New York Giants. Because of Odell Beckham Jr. With Randall, assuming that Victor Cruz ultimately comes back. But even then, can that defense do what, the Jets defense was able to do to the Eagles? I think when you look at Dallas and what Atlanta was able to do to them in the second half, I don't see too many teams capable of doing that to them, especially in the NFC East. And with the New York Giants, I can see their defense being a bit suspect. I think they will beat the Dallas Cowboys when they face them next, because I think they will split this season. Dallas Cowboys beat them opening night. I think the Giants will get them back.
At Jerry World.
At Jerry World.
Which is like an away game for my Cowboys.
Yes,
they're so bad at home.
But I do believe that the NFC East is so suspect. I mean, Kirk Cousins, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Don't get me started with him. He's allergic to bright lights, okay? He don't want any part of it. The brighter the lights. I mean, you want to have a shot at winning if you're the Washington Redskins, stay off of national television. Because that way Kirk Cousins he'll be more than happy to show up. You put him under the bright lights, he will shrink like the Wicked Witch having water poured on him.
Wow.
That's Kirk Cousins. I'm just done.
Maybe he's just trying to do too much.
Thank you for that visual.
It's just the truth. It's just the truth, okay?
Well, we don't want to see him just like go away. You know, like
well, I'm just saying.
She was done.
He's
she was
well,
like
I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way. What I mean is that he's done. Okay, that's all I meant by that, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I haven't watched the show in a while, okay? All right, but I was just trying to say she's
saw it lately.
I was just trying to say she's
my
shrunk.
favorite
That's
show.
all I said.
My favorite too.
I'm so touched. I'm so touched. I'm so touched by y'all, all right? I'm so touched. It's so touching, okay? I don't remember all the details about the wicked witch shrinking, all right? But I just know it has happened. All I'm trying to say is you look at that, and then you look at, the Eagles. I'm so disappointed in what I have seen.
Not seeing it.
I'm so disappointed. How are you scoreless in 7 of 12 quarters this season? How are you scoreless? I don't see it. So to me,
franchise on the way.
All I have to hold on to is that the Dallas Cowboys will find a way to sink come postseason time. That's all I have to hold on to. I really do.
So to sum this all up, we should remind people to I'm going to paraphrase you, just stay on the weed, right? Stay on the weed. Because he was pretty great in the first half yesterday. 13 out of 14. Yeah. He made one bad decision and one bad throw. Tried to play hero, rolling the wrong way to his left, get the ball back to Witten. Doesn't have to do that.
Feeling himself a little bit.
For the game, again, seriously, when I look at completing 22 of 26 for 232 for Brandon Weeden. I told you, if I told you that on Friday, you would have said, oh, they win that game. They rushed for 127 yards. Now, most of those came in the first half because they went backwards for 4 yards in the second half. Okay? So, look, I'm going to sum up what happened to these Eagles at the Jets. I firmly believe this. It was the classic case of the whole world said, the Jets are going to walk away with this game, and Sam Bradford might not survive it. He might not literally, football-wise, live to tell about this experience at Jets. And the Jets just didn't show up.
No.
They didn't show up emotionally. And you can't do it against a still decent and somewhat talented NFL team. I don't care who it is.
It's called
even
Sproles.
one coached by Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
What's
called Sproles. That's what it's called.
And Sproles.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't let him loose on a punt return or you're going to lose. Your quarterback, who's just okay. You're just trying to get through the night with Ryan Fitzpatrick. If he's going to have to throw it, I don't have in front of what was it we talked about earlier, 58 times?
Yes, 58 times.
And if he's going to throw 3 to the other team, and then Brandon Marshall's going to try to make the ultimate hero play and lateral it as he goes down to nobody except the wrong team, that's 4 turnovers and a punt return. You're going to lose. You're going to lose. I'm sorry, but it doesn't mean the Jets are terrible and the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. It just was one of those any given Sunday kind of NFL games. So we're back to my Dallas Cowboys, and pretty soon, remember, Jeremy Mincey, maybe you don't know him, but he was their sack leader last year. He got a concussion in Philly in the warm-ups and played and practiced all week, and then he couldn't go yesterday. So that's a big loss. It's a big loss.
It is a
Cowboys
big loss.
need to find a way to get the number 1 receiver. Terrence needs to play better. He needs to score.
They can't get down by a lot and have to throw.
He needs to be the number 1 guy.
They were up 21-7. 28-14, and got shut out in the second half. I don't want to hear something about they need to be up. They lost because they got ramrodded because their defense was suspect when it counted. Now, you should jump on that because of the Giants.
To throw, Stephen A. That's when they're in trouble. The Giants should be 3-0. Trust me, I believe that. But I get that they're suspect in certain areas, and I can't trust them either. But they could be 3-0. I'm not writing them off.
They could, but they're not. And at the end of the day, Skip, here's the bottom line, okay? All of these things that you point out just plays right into my hands. You see, the Dallas Cowboys are elevating in levels of significance because once he's upset this morning.
Why?
But just give it because they lost. Because he's always heartbroken. I mean, listen, this is the guy that quit on the Spurs and was getting ready to just eradicate his column because the Spurs lost a regular season night and messed up his column one day. This is ridiculous. That's how emotional it gets. That's how emotional it gets. It's just one night. It's just one night. But trust you me on this. Trust you me. By tomorrow, The smile is going to be back on his face. He's going to be all right. He ain't going to be melancholy. He's going to recapture the momentum, talking about what they're going to do. And trust you me, all of these foolish, ridiculous Cowboy fans, Cowboy Nation, the worst fans in America, by the way, they're going to jump right on the bandwagon. They're going to jump right on the bandwagon, and they're going to sit up there and go like this. We are going to be all right. We are going to be all right. Oh, please.
Greg Hardy, Rolando McClain, Randy Gregory, Jeremy Mincy. Let me have them all back, and let's see that smile wiped off your face.
Yeah. Last comment. I swear that last comment. I swear. Those very people that you're relying upon, are you sure they're going to last the season? I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything.
Thank you so much for being here.
You know what? I love you, and I wish you'd stay.
We got to go to break.
I'm just saying.
Skip resilient, just like those Cowboys.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
The Broncos improved to 3-0 with a 24-12 win over the Lions. Peyton Manning threw for 324 yards and 2 TDs. It was his 164th career game with multiple touchdown passes. No surprise, that's an NFL record. 2 wins were against playoff teams from last year. Both the Ravens and the Lions were in the playoffs. Skip, did this game end the questions about Peyton Manning? There's been so much speculation about him this season.
Stephen A., silly me, I thought those questions got laid to rest back at Kansas City, when Peyton, in the last 2 minutes, 27 seconds, led that team 80 yards in 10 plays, including the 19-yarder to Emmanuel Sanders, that won the football game against their arch rival in one of the loudest outdoor venues in the world. And yet, it seemed like NBC's storyline all last night was, could this be the end? Could this be the end of Peyton? Obviously, Chris Collinsworth said, that's a bunch of baloney. Well, it sure looked like a bunch of baloney to me last night, because clearly Peyton won the power struggle with Gary Kubiak, so they went all shotgun last night. Now they're back to the running game that carried that team. Remember down the stretch last year when Peyton clearly was hurt, starting with that St. Louis game that you've talked about so many times, then the San Diego game at San Diego. They just ran the heck out of the ball down the stretch, and it carried Peyton through his obvious injuries. Well, now the running game's pretty much disappeared. Now it's all Peyton. 31 out of 42 for 324. I realize it's the Lions, but they just banked another big road win to me. And as Peyton pointed out, it's not the same Lions as last year, but they were in the playoffs. They did lose to my Dallas Cowboys at Jerry World. And the point is, they've beaten Baltimore, even though Baltimore might not be Baltimore. They were a playoff team last year in Kansas City. So they're off to a pretty great start. And Peyton's, he looks as effective to me as he has ever looked. I never worried about his arm strength because he never had much to begin with. I don't know what the problem is. He still looks like Peyton Manning to me at age 39.
Skip Bayless, I agree with you, but I totally understand why there are question marks about the Denver Broncos. Over the last 3 years under Peyton Manning, they've been in the top 3 in terms of points scored. Last year, they were the number 2 ranked offense in all of football, putting up 482 points. This year, over the first 3 games of all the teams right now that are 3-0, they've got the second least amount of points at 74 to the Carolina Panthers. That's number 1. But also, Denver somewhat reminds me of Baltimore. Certainly Flacco is no comparison to Peyton Manning in my opinion, even though they both have the same amount of Super Bowl victories.
They do.
But the flip side to it is that just like Justin Forsett has lost his game and can't seem to run the football for the Baltimore Ravens, C.J. Anderson ain't doing it for the Denver Broncos.
Is that him or the line?
Well, it could be the line. It could be the line. But at the end of the day, we have to look at what you have. Now, the line obviously was formidable. They've changed bodies like 3 or 4 different dudes on the offensive line.
Positions.
You're absolutely right. So you got to take that, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So you got that going on. But ultimately, at the end of the day, even when there was some question marks due to injuries in the past with the offensive line last year, we looked at a C.J. Anderson. The year before that, it was Monty Ball, and I forgot another name escapes me. I got brain lock right here, right now. But no Sean Moreno. Right. So you got that going on. So you had all of that. They were running the ball relatively effectively. That's not happening right now. Okay. But I will say that that's the problem, and I think that's the question mark of why people are looking at Peyton Manning. But I agree with you. I think it's much ado about nothing because he can still do it. The biggest what I took from last night's game, the Detroit Lions. It was a competitive game, 14-12 at one point, and I still wasn't interested, and I couldn't figure out why. And then, bam, it hit me. And Ndamukong Suh being gone from that defense, that mystique is gone. They ranked 25th defensively, 27th against the pass, 20th against the rush. Nothing nasty at all about their defense. That's a problem. That in combination, there is just... Megatron is no longer Megatron. Not that guy. He's not that guy. We've been talking about Dez Bryant, Antonio Brown, Demaryius Thomas, Julio Jones. We used to put Charles Johnson, Megatron, in that category. Sure. He was number one.
Well, he was the guy.
And I'm saying, I'm in no way saying that he's finished. I am saying that the first 3 games of this season has told us that he is out of that category.
You know, I've come to the belief that Megatron made Matt Stafford. And I didn't used to think that, but Matt Stafford could just fling it up in the air.
He looks ordinary now.
Yeah,
he looks ordinary now.
The Dolphins lost their most lopsided home opener in team history, losing 41-14 to the Bills. This coming on the heels of a 23-20 loss to the Jaguars. That was in week 2. Here is head coach Joe Philbin after the loss.
It's the 3rd game of the season. I mean, I wish we were playing better, but we are what we are right now. We're going to take a look at the tape and, look into everything we're doing and make decisions that can help us become better quicker. I mean, there's no magic potion. I wish if I had a magic potion, I would have brought it out earlier. Going into the game, we were 5th in the NFL in scoring defense. Obviously, we're not going to be that coming out of the game. And we didn't play very well on defense today whatsoever, and we have to do better.
Stephen A., is it time for Philbin to go?
Yes, it is. It's not something that I like to say. I'm sure that the man is knowledgeable about the game of football. I'm certainly not qualified to debate X's and O's and to dissect him to the degree that, I'm qualified to sit there and say he's incompetent. I certainly would not. I'm not accusing Joe Philbin of that. What I'm saying is that he's not inspirational. He doesn't inspire. This team has never been 8-8 under his stewardship. This is his 4th season. He was 7-9 the first year, 8-8 the second year, 8-8 the third year, and now here they are. They have looked bad all 3 games, including their opening victory of the season against the Redskins. I just look at him. They're uninspiring at all. Now, everybody's been pointing the finger at Ndamukong Suh. I see effort. I see him I'm seeing him get double-teamed. I'm seeing him get triple-teamed. I thought Cameron Wake would do a better job playing alongside him on the line. That isn't taking place, and they absolutely positively can't defend against the run because they're ranked 30th in rushing. And Tyrod Taylor and those boys did their thing. But Philbin got out-coached yesterday. Rex Ryan, and they just confused him. They ran the ball when he thought they would pass. When he thought they would pass, they passed the ball when he thought they would run. And Philbin just seems to be anemic, just totally lifeless when it comes to really inspiring these guys to play some daggone football. And that's a very, very big thing in the sport of football. It can't just be about X's and O's. You watch Bill Belichick. He seems to speak these guys' language or get them to speak his.
I agree.
Philbin doesn't do that. There are some people who are meant to be coordinators. That is Joe Philbin. He needs to go. They need a new head coach, and they don't need to wait until the end of this season. Stephen Ross, who had Warren Buffett in attendance with him when they were down 27-0 in the first half and let the Buffalo Bills pile up 200 yards in the first quarter, he needs to get a new coach quick, fast, and in a hurry.
I agree with you. They were also fortunate to virtually steal game 1, week 1 at Washington with a fourth-quarter punt return. Remember that? 17-10. I'm going to go to the quarterback, too, because I do blame Philbin somewhat for hitching his star in that franchise to Ryan Tannehill. And I've told you since before the draft, I don't love him. I'm not sure he's going to lead you to any promised lands anywhere. Yesterday, his QBR scale 0 to 100 was 12. Tyrod Taylor's was 95.
Yes.
Now, they ran into a Buffalo buzzsaw that is going to buzz through a lot of people this year, except for the New England Patriots. But in this case, they gave up, that defense, anchored by Sue, gave up 428 yards and 41 points. But meanwhile, Tannehill doesn't help you because he throws 3 interceptions. So
first half.
Yeah, and you're going to lose. You're going to get blown out at home if you're going to throw 3 first-half interceptions in your home opener. That the handwriting is all over the stadium wall that it's time for Philbin to go. But I thought it was before this year even started.
You did, and the bottom line is this. South Beach and the folks down there in Miami don't want him there. Let's just call it what it is. You got to speak folks' language. You've got to vibe. You've got to represent the franchise in a fashion that will galvanize dudes to want to come and play for you. And Ndamukong Suh is being double and triple teamed, Skip. I'm not saying he's flawless by any stretch. He only got 3 tackles on the season. I mean, come on now. But the fact of the matter is that he needs some help.
Yep.
And he ain't getting it.
No. 7-year playoff drought down there in Miami. You know who really loved this one? Charles Clay and Richie Incognito, I'm sure. Extra sweet for them. Speaking of baseball, after Bryce Harper flew out in the 8th inning, teammate Jonathan Papelbon called Harper out for not running it out to first base. The two exchanged words on the way back to the dugout, and then they got into a fight, needed to be separated by teammates. Skip, big deal? No deal.
Stephen A., I've seen a lot worse in my time, especially the night that Barry Bonds put Jeff Kent up against the dugout concrete, which Kent deserved. But in this case, this was a predictable, there you go. This was a predictable product of the Nationals' disgraceful collapse this year. So then you had Papelbon, who's been a huge disappointment, pitching against his old team, the Phillies. And he had the audacity to call out Bryce Harper, who well could win the MVP, for not running out a pop-up in a game that they're out of it, that didn't even matter anymore. And what a disgrace that was. But nothing really happened in the fight.
Well, I wasn't talking about really the fight so much, Skip. I think this is a product. First of all, Rizzo should have never brought Papelbon there to begin with. Storing was your closer. Had 28 saves at the time. Okay, and then ever since then, he's had 1 save. They were in first place now. They lost the division. 9.5 games out. The Mets have clinched the NL East. You look at a guy like Bryce Harper. You talk about Papelbon. He was clearly bad chemistry added to the locker room. It's going to get the manager Matt Williams fired. Rizzo needs to look at himself, and Bryce Harper is going to eventually leave for my New York Yankees.
They could use him right now,
eventually.
And they don't have
I agree with that. I agree with that. That's fair. That's a low blow on your part, but it's okay. It's all right.
Don't forget, not just baseball tonight, Monday Night Football. Chiefs at Packers will react to that game first thing on Tuesday. Thanks for watching.
Bad man, say it. Bad man.
Bad man.
Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Catch First Take weekdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on ESPN2.
The Pirates and Cardinals have the best 2 records in baseball, and they go head-to-head one final time this regular season. Could this be a preview of next week's division series? Coverage begins Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.